welcome back to the second edition of College Football Unscripted, CFB Unscripted's Coaches Chronicles. I'm here with my co-host once again, Anthony, and we're going to talk everything NCAA football college coaches. So tell me, Anthony, who do you think is the two guys on the hot seat this week?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go with Boston College, Bill O'Brien. Um, he's got a history.
Yeah,
He's got a history with being in good programs. It's just not working out in Boston. 1-9. Just terrible seasons for them. And my number two is gonna be Mike Norvell out in Florida State. They're having a not great season, 4-5, and I'm pretty sure they just lost to Clemson, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, they
But
did.
yeah. See, so yeah, those Bill O'Brien's seat is red hot. Mike Norville's is it's getting hot right at 4 and
Yeah,
5
and
with the Seminoles there.
let's talk about the Florida State first. Just yeah, like they're historically they're pretty well-known program. They should be good even in their last 5 games. Really, the only one that I can even remember is their game against Wake Forest, where they trampled them 42-7. Right, but they've lost to who? Clemson, Stanford, Pitt, Miami, Virginia. Not to mention they lost to Alabama at the August 30th. There, um,
Yeah, yeah.
it just hasn't been a good start or a good season for them so far. Who do you think is likely to replace them there?
So listen, I tell you who's going to replace him. I agree with what you're saying about Florida State. They're a
Yeah,
team that should be doing a lot better than 4 and 5. The head on that snake needs to be corrected because it's not. Or the head on the horse. The snake sounds a little evil, but the head on the horse, it needs to be right, and it's not. And that coach, Mike Norvell, I don't know if you'll see next season. To answer your question, I would like to see Brian Kelly out of LSU go there. I think that's a school that, just like Notre Dame, kind of they're popular. They're a popular school, but they
yeah.
fly under the radar with certain things. And Brian Kelly can succeed in a school like FSU. And if they pull him in, I think recruits will come, and I think they can be a way better program than 4 and 5.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of programs that kind of need that rejuvenation for next season, and a guy that might not necessarily be there, Bill O'Brien in Boston College. Boston College off to a 1-9 start. Like I would find it hard pressed that they keep rolling with him come next season.
Boston College, like you think of Boston College, like you're thinking of hockey, right? You're not thinking
Yeah,
of football. Boston College, not to say that their program isn't an okay program, but Bill O'Brien is a weird one because he he can get fired, but I could see him getting a job as an OC or something, or DC in the NFL. um, it's odd because after a 1-9 season, you'd think maybe he's cleaning the lockers out of Boston College, but he could potentially go somewhere else and bigger and better things, oddly to say, after a 1-9 season.
well, and I think like even they play a game against Georgia Tech and Syracuse in these coming weeks here, and I think those could be two very important deciding games for him. Be it an OC job in the NFL or maybe a head coaching job somewhere else if he does get let go of. But yeah, I think he's another guy who's just, despite his credentials, despite his history, he's on the hot seat and not looking too good. But yeah, Boston College, they're historically known for their hockey, for their other sports, but that doesn't mean that they can't turn around their football program, right?
No, absolutely. If you're making a big name for yourself in other sports, there's no reason for you not to make yourself known in this sport, this great sport, football here. So Bill O'Brien's, I'd be surprised if he's around next year. It'll shock me, not gonna lie to you.
So who do you think could replace him with Boston College?
Man, it's a tough one to say because Boston College, like we just talked about, is a not really known for its football, right? So it's gotta dig deep. It's gonna be weird, but if Florida State lets go of Mike Norvell, He'd be a good place for him out in Boston over there to kind of kickstart his career again and get him going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Turning that program into something people talk about could be good for Mr. Norvell there. So I think it'd be something cool to see him in Boston.
Well, speaking of cold, coming up next week, it's going to be the start of the old football playoffs. And we might just have to talk about coaches that are on an ice cold seat because those guys are safe, right?
Absolutely.
Who knows what other developments happen. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to tune in next week to CFB Unscripted's Coaches Chronicles. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and we'll talk at you next week.